Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Mike Booth.
The August fixtures are over and United is still looking for that first win back in League One. An OK performance again in the 1-0 defeat at Port Vale, but still no 3 points. It's a big week ahead for the Blues as the transfer window closes and the target man remains elusive.
With a pass so true to ball the stone and France in view. There's a cross and a run. The old one.
You know what, Mike? The thing that's blown my mind still from that weekend, from going to the lovely town of Burslem in Stoke. You know what I'm going to say?
What?
It's that little grass patch next to someone's house with 3 goats in it that we saw.
Yeah.
Literally in the middle of Burslem Town Centre. We were just driving, just as you're coming in, there's literally just this bit next to someone's house with a fence bit up at the front. And there was 3 goats in there just roaming around.
Yeah, it's a weird place.
Very odd place. Unfortunately, it's not a happy hunting ground for United at the moment. And again, it wasn't this weekend. A 1-0 defeat against the Valiants. As I said in the intro there, an okay performance once again. But there's only so many times you can keep saying okay performance, isn't it, Mike? I think it's fair to say. It's
Yeah, exactly. We keep saying we're not a million miles off it, but even if we're only 1 mile off it, we're still off it.
Yeah, we're still nowhere near good enough at the moment. That's the problem. And it's one of these things we keep saying, and no team has, other than maybe Wigan in the first half, have battered us this season. And I think that's factually correct and that's true. But you're seeing the difference in terms of taking chances, aren't you? This season,
definitely.
And what you have to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a confidence thing as well, really. Yeah. And dare I say, when we get a win, we might win the next week as well. And I think certainly some of our strikers, when they score, they might score the next week as well. It's just a little bit of a rut run at the minute.
Yeah, there definitely is maybe a little bit of issue in terms of confidence there, and I think some people have pointed out that this run in terms of scoring goals, it's not just this season. It's the tail end of last season as well. We had an issue with scoring goals, and we'll talk about transfer tags and stuff like that at the end of the episode. But yeah, it's all a bit. It's down to the last minute, I think, isn't it, in terms of getting that elusive target man into the club, I think, for the rest of the season. Right, well, let's get into it. This is our review episode, and as all episodes this season, is sponsored by the Carlisle United Sports Club London Branch. The London Branch is open to all Carlisle United fans, wherever you are from, whether that's Formby. Mike, you're in Formby, you could join. I could join in Liverpool. You could join if you live in, Prague. You could join if you live in, Cairo. Go on, name some cities, Mike, because we like doing this. Just random cities across the world. Don't say Timbuktu, because we always say that. No, not Stoke. We're not allowed to say Stoke. No, seriously though, you could, from pretty much
anyone
anywhere.
And everyone. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you could join if you live in Kabul as well, if you really wanted. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, you can join the London Branch where you're from. They do a lot of great stuff in terms of fundraising for the club, but they also, in terms of away games, if you're travelling to them, they do ticket schemes as well to get tickets for everybody for that, and travel sometimes as well, and sort out which pubs to go to and things like that. And if you want to join, go to their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org, and also just grab one of them at one of the away games. There's quite a few of them there. I think on Saturday I saw a few of them handing out hit the bars, or selling hit the bars, I should say. Sorry, and go on the website and find out about them. Yep. Right, let's get into it, Mike. Yes, straight into it. Port Vale 1, Carlisle United 0. It's kind of weird because you look at the stats, the bare stats. Port Vale probably have edged it a little bit, but we've still had chances. We've had 10 possessions, fairly balanced. We've had 10 shots, 2 of them on target. They've had 17 and 5 on target, which obviously includes the penalty, you should say. Corners are pretty balanced. I don't know what is missing at the moment. Just as a general comment before we talk about the chances, what do you think's missing?
Just goals. It's that simple. But not only that though, and we'll touch on it in a bit, but we haven't kept a clean sheet this season either.
No, that's a fair point. And that is going to be
a combination of the two is not very good.
No. When you think about the fact that, last season we kept, what, was it 20 clean sheets in the end? So basically every other game almost was a clean sheet. Well, we're 5 games in and we still haven't kept one. So that's a concern. And, I mean, the fact we lost Morgan Feeney in the summer, yeah, but at the end of the day, we brought Barkley and we had Whelan still here. I'd say, but Lavelle's the new addition so far since he's been in. We haven't kept a clean sheet, and that's, maybe it is a bit of a coincidence, but you do wonder sometimes, don't you? Yes. So going into this one, team selection from Simmo, 3 changes, wasn't there? I think in total.
Yes.
So we'll talk about the 2 attacking ones first. So Gibson came out, and McCalmont came in for him, and up front, Edmondson came in for Luke Plange. Don't think Edmo could complain too much. He's not really had quite the impact, and Plange has done quite well in his 2 sub appearances lately. The Gibson McCalmont one, we'll come on to that one once we've talked about the chances and that, I think, but that's one I think that we're both a bit not sure about. And then in nets was the big decision, dropping Holy for Anderson.
Yes.
Again, that really is going to be a talking point after we've talked about the opportunities and stuff like that. It's yeah, it was a bit oof. When I saw that, I was like, okay, that's a bit.
Well, there were rumours, weren't there, before the team was announced in the pub that we're in?
Yeah.
And then it was confirmed, and we're like, oh.
Well, we heard what the team was going to be, and it was correct. The rumoured team, other than the goalkeeper, Holy had been mentioned as the goalkeeper. The outfield 10 that we were told was correct, wasn't it? But then obviously it turns out that Holy was dropped as well. The rumour was he had a shoulder injury, which doesn't look like. It looked like Simmo's just decided it was time to make a change, and you wonder if he was just waiting for one quick opportunity to do that. And I'm always a bit funny about that with keepers. I think you've got to stick with your keeper as long as you can, because if your replacement keeper comes in and doesn't hit the ground running and doesn't perform, 3 games later you're going to have to chuck that other lad back in, and what's he going to think then? It's like, well,
yeah. Exactly.
He dropped me for nothing last time, he's going to think. And
exactly, and I think with keepers as well, if you're terrified of making a mistake, you're going to make a mistake.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Right, let's talk about the game then, Mike, and the chances. Obviously, in terms of Vale, I mean, their lineup was pretty strong for them, I think it's fair to say. Just looking, obviously, James Wilson pretty much playing as a sort of lone striker with Massey and Chislett behind him. I was quite impressed with Chislett, actually. He looks quite a tidy little player. There was a couple of other players in there that looked quite good. But, I mean, they looked like they could be got out of the back, though. There was a few chat times, we got in behind them, and you just think,
yeah,
create something there.
I think, I mean, first 5-10 minutes, they were all over us, and we couldn't deal with them. But once we got into the game, I would say, at half time, I think we were the better team overall in the first half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I'm eating my words, but Plange caused a lot of problems. I think he sort of ran into the channels well. He showed some really good touches. Yeah. But yeah, we created some decent chances in the first half. But
yeah,
I mean, it's mad that, I mean, you look at the table, and they're not a team for me that's...
They're not going to finish 6th place.
No.
6th at the moment, they're not going to finish there. And I think when we predicted them in the pre-season stuff, they hadn't re-signed Wilson at that point, and they looked a little bit light up front. Now they've got him back. They look like they've got a little bit more there, maybe, so they'll probably keep themselves out of trouble, but they're not, for me, they're not going to finish. Look, it was night and day between them and Wigan for me. Wigan looked like a vastly superior team to them. Obviously, Wigan lost the weekend, but they're going to lose a game here and there. So yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it's frustrating actually, because you look. I think it was Jordan Gibson's dad, Andy, who obviously is a listener to the show. I know that. He made the good point, didn't he? That the teams we've lost to so far, the 3 teams, are currently sitting 1st, 2nd, and 6th in the league. Yeah. And I think a couple of them are maybe false positions. I mean, look at Oxford. We went into that game and we could have nicked that. We could have easily nicked that or nicked a draw. And they're sitting top. Exeter again, they sort of hit us late on. Could have got something there. Port Vale, there's an argument we probably should have got something from that one, maybe. And even I mean, it's a little bit false position, Port Vale, because Wigan actually would be in 6th place if they hadn't had the points deducted.
True.
So there's a slight thing there. And obviously the only other team we've played is Fleetwood, who are sitting a point and 2 places below us. So, obviously this weekend we play Shrewsbury, who are sitting nicely in mid-table in 11th place at the moment. So slight difference there, isn't there? Let's talk about some of the chances then. First, I think you're right, Mike. First 15 minutes, they were well on top, and there was a kind of a feeling of like, ooh, this isn't looking good here. They did have the ball in the net early on, didn't they? Had a chance.
Yeah.
There was a long-range shot was hit, was saved, and having looked back at it, he's offside. By a good couple of yards, there's no real worry about it. But what I would say is Anderson palming out into a dangerous area, and the defender's really static again. And it's a problem, isn't it? That we've noticed. We were lucky not to concede a first half penalty, weren't we? I think it's fair to say.
I think the referee was very in favour of us, which seems rare. But
this is one of look. We say enough times we complain when the refs aren't in against us, or whatever. But I've got to say, he gave some really odd decisions in our favour. There's one where we got a chance on the break, and it looked like Moxon had blatantly fouled one of their players, and he just said play on. But this one was sort of a ball into the box, Chislett turns the sides, and he sort of pokes it, and Lavelle cleans him out. And for me, I was like, oh God, he's going to give a penalty here. But Wilson got to the loose ball, but he scooped it wide of goal, and he just points for a goal kick. And we were all like, is he just given that? Bloody hell. That was quite a shock, wasn't it? But we did have a few chances first half once we found our feet, didn't we? Once we got into the game a little bit more, we really started to look like we could actually cause a threat. You mentioned Plange. He did quite well. Actually had a long-range effort where he picked up the ball, got past a couple of players and hit a low shot that went just wide of the post. So
I think he could have maybe carried it a little bit further.
I think I agree. Yeah, I think that's a confidence thing again. That's having a bit of knowledge of like, right, I can take it a little bit further and actually get an even better angle for the shot. He actually headed a corner over it as well. Sorry, not a corner, free kick from the right over the bar as well. We maybe could have done better. And then probably the best chance we had was Callum Guy, wasn't it, with one of his long range specials that Ripley pulled off a stunning save to palm away, didn't he? I have to say, I was impressed with Ripley for them, and it's another one of those ones of hindsight. We thought last season we wouldn't have minded him signing before he went to Morecambe, and this summer obviously he left Morecambe. You kind of think if he'd wanted a decent, quality backup to challenge Holy, then maybe he would have been a good option. But hey ho, so that's the first half. They had a couple more chances, didn't they? But nothing too major. There was a couple of moments where we looked a bit hairy with some back passes to Anderson. I think Huntington, you want to pick up on that later on, but we'll talk about when we talk about the defence. But into the second half, barely a few minutes in, and Simmo was raging about this after the game, and I can kind of understand why. So throw in sort of, I would say it's about in line with the penalty spot on the left, probably. Yeah,
roughly.
So Mellish is looking down the line. There's not really any options. Anderson must have offered himself to the ball. Surely you'd think. Because Mellish wouldn't throw it if he hadn't offered himself for the ball. Mellish throws it in, and he throws it with quite a lot of power because he has to, because otherwise, strikers are going to get into it. And actually, when you look back at it, right, the attackers aren't that close to Anderson when the ball comes to him. I don't think they are. Anyway, what's your thoughts when you've looked back at it?
I think, regardless, he shouldn't have thrown it like that. But the throw had happened, and he should have just been able to get rid of it.
There's an element of, maybe Mellish shouldn't have thrown like that, but I don't think it's quite as dangerous as some have made out. I think maybe because he's had to throw it so hard and it's bounced up a bit, but Anderson's so casual with his touch. He's chesting it, but bear in mind he's a left-footed player as well. Why is he chesting it like that when the only place it's going to go is towards his right foot? And the ball comes loose and a striker's coming in. The striker's still quite a bit off, to be fair. He's not like right up against him when he takes that touch. And he's so slow to react to realise that the ball's gone loose. But then on top of that, you've got Lavelle and Huntington who are both ball watching. I'm loath to blame them too much, but I think they probably should be a bit sharper there as well. And,
I'm less inclined to blame them, to be honest, because I think they're just expecting to get rid of it.
Yeah. If he takes a good strong touch with his chest there, he just hoofs it off the pitch. But he doesn't. He's too casual. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The lad nips in, and he brings him down. It's a blatant penalty. There's no arguments about it.
Yeah. Lucky not to get a card, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, I thought he might have got a booking for it, but going away from goal, I guess, maybe is the argument. And He wouldn't get sent off because of the double jeopardy rule, would he? And he was clearly trying to get to the ball. It wasn't like he hauled the lad down. So yeah, Wilson steps up, sends Anderson the wrong way and puts it into the bottom corner. 1-0. And what was your feeling when that went in? Did you have a feeling we could get back into it? Because I'll be honest with you, that this season with me, I was kind of like, that's probably it. That
we were on top until then, so I hadn't really lost faith. But yeah, I knew it was certainly going to be a struggle.
Yeah, there was kind of a feeling of like, here we go. That said, we did have chances. Moxon had a long range effort that was well saved by the keeper. The best chance of the lot has got to be the Maguire header, which I think came from an arm across. I'll have to go back and check that again. But in fact, it might have even been a free kick from Moxon? I can't remember. Anyway, ball comes in from the left wing, and he just gets a glance on it. He doesn't get a proper connection, does he?
No.
All it needs a proper connection.
I think if he got something on it, really, it's a goal. That was disappointing. But there's one as well, which I wouldn't have down as a chance per se, but it was when Maguire sort of cut inside and he maybe had an opportunity to shoot, but he squared it to Moxon. And
Moxon got blocked.
Yeah, it was one of them, basically. It was like a 50-50 between Moxon and their defender. If Moxon had won the 50-50, it would have been a goal, I think.
Possibly,
the defender just got there ahead of him. But
I think Maguire's got to take that on his left foot when he gets into that position for me.
I think it's a confidence thing. I really do. And I think a few players, they didn't want to be the one to have missed a chance come the end of the game. Moxon, on the other hand, seemed to really be wanting to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and really wanting to make something happen and do things. But a few people were just a little bit shy of confidence to do that.
Yeah, you do want to see that from them. And then it's kind of frustrating because the last 10 minutes or so, we just, including the extra time, we just didn't really threaten enough, did we? Their keeper didn't really have enough to do, unfortunately, and the game kind of petered out a bit.
He didn't have a lot to do per se in terms of us having shots on goal, but we were getting the ball into good areas and we were putting it into the box, and there just wasn't anyone there.
No, I mean the prime example was that Gibson cross, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was a beautiful cross.
I mean, look, we're pretty much wrapped up talking about the actual chance and stuff there, but I can say now, a couple of people around us, and I probably agree with them, would say he was our man of the match. And he was only on for 20 minutes. Yeah. He looked like the player. He was going to create stuff. He looked like... And I do wonder if that might be one for Simmo to go, okay, he's starting next week, and he's going to have to keep starting for a bit.
I've seen someone say as well that he took a bit of a blow to the leg and it might just be a case of letting the swelling go down a little bit or something. I hope it's that, because if he was dropped for tactical reasons, that's concerning, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd be a bit surprised if that was the case, because it just wouldn't really make sense to me, to be fair. I think he's better than that. But anyway, yes. Well, let's talk about let's run to the talking points about the game generally now. Let's talk about the team selection decisions. I think we're both in agreement we didn't really have an issue with the Edmondson Plange one. Edmondson's not really making the impact moment, and Plange, I got to say, actually, I think he looks better with each game I see him. I'm not convinced he's going to score that many goals. He might chip a few in once he gets one. He might get a bit of confidence, but you can see there's a decent-ish player there. I think he's still finding his feet a little bit in this team, but I mean, you can't knock his work rate. He actually holds the ball pretty well. Actually, he holds onto it and uses it quite well. He's just not getting into goal-scoring areas at the moment. That's the problem.
The thing for me was he was running into the channels quite well, and I think whoever had been marking him was probably quite knackered when he came off.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think if we had a Patrick to come on for him to do that same thing against a tired defence.
Yeah, I think we might talk about this in the transfer window a bit, about the fact that there's a couple of that left in the summer. In fact, maybe even 3 left in the summer. You think, if we could have kept hold of them, maybe. But hey-ho. Well, let's talk about the Gibson one, because I think the final one, the goalkeeper one's going to be the one that we're going to probably talk about the most, I think, probably. Gibson dropped out. So you mentioned there he might have had a knock something. I think he's been our best player this season, and for me at the moment, he's probably the first name on the team sheet. I'd probably after Moxon, most people would say. I don't think Moxon's been as good this season. I still think he's been good, but I don't think he's been quite the same level. Maybe that's just the step up and he's finding his feet a little bit more. But for me, Gibson's looked like he's very comfortable at this level, and you know, a player we should probably be looking to keep a bit more long term. Actually, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's no two ways about that. I mean, for me, McCalmont, I mean, these games, I've sort of had minor gripes with players last season that, well, we went up, so I wasn't that bothered, but now these minor gripes, we're not in a good position and they're kind of bothering me a bit. And for me, like McCalmont, he scored some good finishes, and he'll press opposition teams really, really well, but he just doesn't make things happen the way that Gibson does. Yeah. You know, he doesn't... When he's sort of receiving the ball side on and he's on the half turn, he'll take it backwards and sort of... I think he's often looking to just play an easy pass to Moxon, who will then make something happen, whereas Gibson is wanting to turn forward and make something happen himself.
Do you think that midfield three of Moxon, Guy and McCalmont's just a bit too functional? A bit too solid, and they're all... fairly good at the jobs, but I mean, Guy excels at screening and, winning the ball back and covering positions. Moxon, we know, can do a bit of that and can win the ball back, but he's also got that ability to pick that pass and get forward. McCalmont's solid at those things, but he's not spectacular at those things. He's probably capable of chipping in with goals, coming in late into the box, but he's not really doing that at the moment. If he's not doing that, he's kind of like, he's all right at the other things, but not awful, but just not quite taking it to the next level at the moment.
No, and I'd maybe sort of start Gibson, and if we're a couple of goals up and you need someone to harry the opposition to preserve that lead, bring McCalmont on.
We need to get one goal first. We're a couple of goals up. It's going to take a while before we get to that point, I think, at the moment.
But as well, Gibson has a knack of winning the ball. Quite high up the pitch as well. He's got that little knack. So. It's not like Gibson doesn't do the defensive side of things, because he does.
He can get frustrated at times, and we saw it with that game against, was it Mansfield last season? Where there was a little bit of a petulant streak in there, but I think he grew out of that. He was getting some silly yellows early in the last season. I'm pretty sure it was last season, wasn't it? It wasn't the season before. Yeah, it was last season. He got some petulant yellows early on, but he sort of grew out of that, and he matured a little bit more, and he became a much better player as a result. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much in that sense, but I agree with you. I think he should be starting.
But I think as well, Gibson has had some critics, and I kind of understand his critics in a way, because the things he wants to do, if they came off 10 times out of 10, he would be nowhere near Carlisle United. And some games, the things he tries to do might only come off 5 times out of 10, but them 5 times might create us really good goal-scoring opportunities.
And we need someone doing that at the moment. We can't afford players who are taking safe options and being the solid player, but not really contributing in terms of getting us goals and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think we're kind of in agreement. And to be fair, I think most fans are in agreement that he's been our best player, and he probably should be starting games. So
and as well, for me, when you're starting Gibson, if you're starting with a 3-5-2, you can change formation without having to sub anyone off.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key point there, isn't it? That was the kind of thing I thought when we were struggling a bit early on. We maybe could have been able to go. I mean, we got into the game, but we were still level pegging with Port Vale at best, not really on top. But yeah, I kind of feel like if Gibson had been on there, we could have gone, right, let's go for the 4-3-3. Let's stick Gibson wide left, Maguire right, plunge down the middle, put Mellish in midfield, and we could have probably got a better grip on the game. As it was, you can't really do that. McCalmont, he's not going to play that wing role really, so you're kind of stuck with what you have unless you push Mellish up to that wing position.
And again, we were talking about goal scoring opportunities, and this wasn't a goal scoring opportunity because it didn't come to fruition, but he kind of broke through 1-on-1, didn't he?
Yes, I remember that one.
And the defender was behind him and was able to kind of get round him and win the ball off him, but
he took too long.
Yeah, just stay between the man and the ball, and if he clips your heels, it's a penalty.
Yeah, decision making there, that was the problem, wasn't it? He needed to be a bit more decisive in terms of deciding, right, I'm going to I'm gonna have a go or I'm gonna pass it here. He just didn't really do either. That was the problem. So I think we both sort of agree. There's still a good player there. Just at the moment, he's just not really working, and maybe we just need to. He maybe just needs a spell where he's on the bench, and he has to wait for his chance.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, let's talk about the big one then. The one that I think's divided a lot of fans. To be fair, there's been some terrific playground arguments on Twitter about this in the last couple of days, and people calling each other all sorts, and throwing the toys out the pram on either side. But we'll try and keep it a little bit more civil between ourselves, because I think we're both in agreement on this one. Holy drop for Anderson. I'm not convinced if this was the right decision. What do you think?
No, I mean, I think maybe a time could come where that would be the right decision, but I don't think this was the time.
Bit early in the season for me, especially when the problem. I don't think the problem's been goalkeeping. That's what worries me, that Simmo's taken the decision and kind of like, did you need to do that? But
yeah, exactly. And Anderson himself, I mean, for me, there was quite a few corners that dropped in our 6-yard box, and I was saying to you, Holy would have caught that.
Yeah,
100%.
I feel like they felt I can't remember what the word is, but they felt confident that they could throw corners into the box like that.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I feel like if they knew Holy was starting, they'd go, right, we probably have to rethink what we do here, maybe, or maybe they'd test it early on and realise, we're not going to get much out of this, really.
I mean, he made some good saves, not knocking that. For me, could have done a lot better with the goal. But yeah, it just seemed an odd decision, really. And if, 2 or 3 games from now it's not working out, we have to bring Holy in. Well, Holy's down on confidence. So, it just seems a bit weird to me.
Yeah, it was like, I tend to agree with you. For me, he's explained it, said, look, I watched Anderson in training and I've been quite impressed with what he's done. Like he said, he didn't look particularly confident on corners. He didn't really come for any of them. And it's mad that some of our fans have a go at Holy for not coming for corners, but I'll tell you what, Anderson wasn't doing much. He certainly wasn't coming for them. He's kicking. I mean, he struggled to make the halfway line on some of them. I mean, he's a big lad. So I was kind of like...
you touched before that he's left-footed, but I think his right foot is not as good as Holy's left foot.
Yeah, 100%. Holy, on his left foot, can comfortably get it to the halfway line on those kicks. I know there was that one against Exeter the week where the player nearly lobbed him because he scuffed it long, but I mean, that was just a difficult one. With most comfortable ones onto his left foot, he just gets rid, doesn't he? And that's a big difference. And he maybe isn't the most mobile, Holy, and maybe Anderson's a bit better in terms of that. He did make one good 1-1 save, we should say, in the second half when the lad was clean through on goal, but he did not fill me with confidence, if I'm brutally honest. And I'm kind of feeling like he needs to get a good performance against Shrewsbury, because if he has a couple more duff performances, people then start to say to Simmo, well, why the hell did you drop Holy for him?
Yeah,
because it's a risky business to do when you're doing okay in terms of not conceding goals. You're all right with that. To then drop him for a lad who's coming on loan, who, a lot of Reading fans want him as their number one, so you do wonder if Reading have basically said you need to be playing him in games as much as you can.
Yeah, well, I think he won't have left Reading's bench to come and sit on our bench.
No, but he has to accept as well that he probably will be on the bench for long periods. So, it's kind of... You've got to be a bit... I don't know. I just wasn't... He didn't fill me with confidence from quite early on in the game, if I'm honest. There was one point where he got a rollicking from Huntington when it wasn't his fault. And that was probably Huntington playing the ball to his right foot because he was probably used to Holy. And that's why Huntington maybe... There's a couple of times actually Huntington did that in the game, and I wasn't particularly impressed with that. But, it's... he's still a great player, Huntington, but there's just a couple of times you're like, okay, you sometimes have to take a bit of the blame as well sometimes when things go wrong. I'm not convinced it was a great decision. No. Just being brutally honest here. And look, I know we're fully paid up members of the Thomas Holy fan club, whatever, but I do think it was... Look, if it had been a couple more games where this had been a struggle, I maybe would have said, yeah, fair enough, worth giving it a try, something else. But after that Exeter game, the first thing I didn't think was, another keeper would have done better with those chances.
No, exactly.
No, I didn't think that at all. And like I said, they seemed a lot more confident on set pieces, Port Vale, than most teams are against us. And they weren't the biggest team in the world either. So if they felt, well, this is giving us a bit of an advantage, there's a worry there. But yeah, so I mean, good luck to the lad. I'm sure he'll get a run of 3 or 4 games at least now to show what he can do. But he's gonna have to turn up in those games because always Holy will be knocking on the door saying, "Excuse me, can I come back in?" Because there's been talk, hasn't there, that Simmo wasn't overly impressed with Holy at times last season anyway, even though he kept the 20 clean sheets. So, yeah, interesting to see how he does.
But my concern is, how is Holy going to fit on the bench at Brunton Park?
I know you were saying this, because the small benches at Brunton Park, aren't they?
Yeah.
So he's going to have to crouch down, I think, probably.
Or just sit on the floor next to the dugout.
Yeah, he literally is going to have to sit on the floor. He's not going to be able to sit on the thing. He'd have to do yoga poses and stuff from the floor, won't he? And there you go. Right, other talking points. You wanted to talk about the back three, Mike, didn't you?
Yes. For me, it hasn't been working. The Lavelle and Huntington, I think they're both lacking pace. I think you need to play one of them in the middle, but not both at the same time. I think for me, you touched on it then, Huntington has done it a few times this season where he's done something wrong and he has a go at other people to kind of deflect a little bit. And I think for me, I'd maybe play Lavelle in the middle and I'd play Barkley on the right of the three because Barkley can play it out a lot better and he can sort of pick out Moxon or pick out Gibson quite well. That's what I'd look to do.
Even if it's just a little rest for Huntington, maybe a few games out of the team just to get him to recharge his batteries a little bit. I know it sounds mad early on in the season, but look, he's... I'm sure he won't appreciate us saying this, but he's not a young gun anymore, is he? At the end of the day, and you've got to manage players like that sometimes. And look, defense isn't a massive issue at the moment, but I agree with you. My slight concern is that, like I said, I want someone in there who's going to play the ball out a bit better because Mellish is up the field, isn't he? At the end of the day, he's not so much playing the ball out as much as the other two, but for me, Barkley is the better player. And then we've gone all out to get Barkley off from Stockport, and for me, he looks a better player than Lavelle. But hey ho, I agree with you. I'd probably change it up in there. I think I'm different to you. I think I'd probably drop Lavelle to the bench at the moment, maybe. But hey, it's courses for courses, really, isn't it? I suppose. Right. What else we got? So subs. I thought the 3 initial subs that Simmo did actually had a really good impact. Obviously, Gibson came out at the time. Edmondson did quite well. He won a few flick-ons and stuff. He looked lively. Do you want to talk a little bit about young Terry who came on? Terry Ablade? Ablade?
Yeah.
We're still not sure on this, are we? Is it Terry?
Yeah.
Tezza. We're just going to
call him Terry. Yeah.
Yeah, Terry.
Well, he basically just closed someone down within 10 seconds of coming on the pitch and had a new, very sexually aggressive chant.
Yeah.
from the crowd.
All I'm going to say is to the young lads in that chant, look, maybe something else you could chant about him, possibly, because it is, it's not the most tasteful chant, but I mean, it shows that he got the fans on side straight away at the very least, though, doesn't it? Because I thought he looked quite lively, for all the worry this week of he's only played those 12 games, he didn't score something. For a little lad, he's got a bit of pace about him. He used the ball well, and actually, he won his aerial chance about 3 or 4 times against bigger players, didn't he? So he can time his heading quite well.
Yeah.
What's your initial thoughts on him? I mean, it's hard to judge, isn't it? And when you come on for that short period of time, but
it is, yeah. But he clearly wanted to make an impact. I mean, we've seen so many loanees in the past who just haven't been bothered. It's too early to tell for me, but. With regards to sort of them other subs that you mentioned, I said before about Plange was running the channels quite well, and we brought Edmondson on, and we were kind of aiming it more direct for Edmondson when their defence were knackered. When I know he's been told not to run into the channels and stuff, but if he'd been running the channels, I think it might have been a little bit more effective. Yeah,
we have Mark Terry doing a bit more of that, didn't we, really, I suppose. And obviously Gibson was on the right, and he was just using the ball so well, and you could see they were panicking when he got on the ball. He started to worry. And obviously those 3 subs, they came on the. I'm just going to check this because I've got the stat up here. So those 3 subs, 68th minute, and then Simmo. At that point, we were really starting to get in a game with that 10 or 15 minute period, and then Simmo brought on Charters and Butterworth for sorry, I should say those subs came on for Plange, Maguire, and McCormick, right? And then on the 84th minute, Butterworth and Charters come on for Guy and Mellish, I think these subs killed our momentum a bit, you know.
Yeah, they did.
Look, maybe the energy levels were a bit low on those two players, and that's why Simmo wanted to replace them. But for me, I don't think. Look, Charters for me so far, he's got all the nice touches that we know he has, but he's getting caught on the ball a couple of times in these games, and he's probably going to have to realise pretty quickly that you don't get that time on the ball in League One that you maybe did in League Two sometimes. And it's tough when you come on into a game in the 84th minute and you're not up to speed and everyone else is. I accept that. But he's going to have to learn a bit quicker. And Butterworth, I just don't know what Butterworth is yet. I really can't work it out at the moment.
I mean, for me, the issue with them subs was that we were kind of piling the pressure on Port Vale, and Guy was back. So, like, Port Vale would clear it, and Guy would just hoover it up and would go again.
Yeah, and Mellish was running around like a nutter, wasn't he? And just winning the ball and stuff and causing
exactly.
problems.
But then you take Guy off, and it's Moxon who kind of has to do that. But you'd rather Moxon was a little bit further forward.
Yeah, and Charters is much more, get on the ball, play nice little passes and thread the ball through it than that. And Butterworth is very much a get the ball to his feet and he'll run at players. And to be fair, like as a result, I just think we lost control of the midfield a bit. If I'm honest, I think I'd probably rather would have seen Barkley come on and play in midfield, and just if if fresh legs is what he wanted, rather than Butterworth, you already had. I don't know if throwing an extra attacker on was going to make that much of a difference. I feel like you bring on. If you brought on Charters from Mellish, okay, but then you brought on Barkley for Guy and just said to Barkley, you just win the ball back in that midfield and give it to the others. I probably would prefer that. And I'm sure Barkley's played in midfield before for some of his previous clubs, so. But, it's all hindsight, isn't it? And like I said, I just felt it killed the momentum a little bit, and I was just a bit disappointed how that affected the rest of the game. And yeah, we never really threatened too much after that 84th minute, I don't think. I'm trying to think of a decent chance we had, but just didn't feel like it, did it?
No.
And I think we said the problem is that we're not really being brave enough in the key areas at the moment. I think we touched on it earlier, didn't we, Mike, that when you get into those good areas, they've just got to be prepared to take a shot sometimes rather than
I think
looking for the pass.
Players are wanting to pass it so that they're not the one responsible for missing the chance, I think.
No, absolutely. And then another thing I sort of put down here, set pieces, not really the same impact as last season, though, are they? And, we can talk about Barkley not being there, but I mean, sorry, not Barkley, Feeney not being there, but then when Barkley was in there, we had a threat there as well. He looked like he was a threat on set pieces and stuff. And
true.
At the moment, I just don't. It's not quite the same, and it's
no.
Just I do wonder if you're missing a little bit of Dennis pressing the keeper and things like that as well, possibly.
I think there's a bit of that, yeah. But I think, to be honest, it's a bit of deja vu because we had it a few years ago where Callum Guy was our corner taker and he got loads of assists and we scored quite a lot of goals off corners. But we had Aaron Hayden in the box causing problems, and Zanzala as well would be on the causing problems as well. We lost Hayden, we lost Zanzala, and our corners were not as good since.
And
we had the same corner taker. But well, exactly, yeah. But it's the people in the box, I think, that are the sort of snaggling point.
Yeah, again, is Lavelle making the same impact as like a Feeney or a Barkley would in that, or even a Whelan? Whelan's really good in terms of attacking set pieces, causing problems.
Yeah,
right? He was always really good at that. So obviously Whelan didn't feature on the subs bench the weekend. Another player didn't feature on the subs bench. Mike, nice little segue for us there. Joe Garner.
Yes.
No Joe Garner on there. This was a real talking point for some people after the game. It's certainly on Radio Cumbria when we were driving back. There was a few people who were quite vocal in their anger about this. I have to admit, I was surprised by it. Look, he's got a lot to pick from, isn't he? That's the thing. We've having a bigger squad this season, which we have, to obviously counter the fact that last season we had so many injuries. It can end up spread quite thin, can't it? The problem is you have to leave people out. Again, it's another ones with Simmo. I'm not convinced leaving him out was the best decision. I feel like he could have made an impact in a game like that late on, maybe.
I think if he was on the bench, you would absolutely want to bring him on. I think, we touched before, I think, Plange and Maguire both ran about a bit, and maybe Garner is too old to be doing that now. But at the end of the game, when we're getting decent balls into the box and there's no one getting on them, that's where you need a Joe Garner, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I absolutely agree with you there. It's a tough one. I'm trying to basically work out here if if Simmo even mentioned about that, because I'm not sure he didn't mention it on Radio Cumbria, because I don't think he got asked, did he, by James? But yeah, he talked about Thomas, but yeah, it doesn't.
We didn't really know because we were listening to it in the car, but my sat nav kept like interjecting over the Radio Cumbria interview, so we didn't really.
Johnny was getting very angry about that, and that is another nice segue, because we've only got one 6-second review this week, and that's from Johnny Atwood. He's sent us one in, so let's hear what Johnny had to say. He was sat next to us at the game, obviously in the car with us on the way back, so he will, it'll be interesting to see what he says.
So, yeah, another frustrating afternoon, wasn't it? First 15, it was just all Port Vale. I feared for us a bit then. They looked really good, but then we settled down and we came into the game a bit. Plans has had that long-range effort that wasn't far off, and then he's had the header, which I think he should be doing better with. It really needs to be on target at the very least. But I think with him, he's not going to score us loads of goals, but I think there's a player in there, and I think if we stick with him, he could be useful for us this season. Guy's had the 25 yards effort, hasn't he, which was a good save by the keeper, to be fair. Their goal, I mean, yeah, Mellis shouldn't be giving it back, but the keeper's got to do better there, hasn't he? There's no real excuse for that. He's got to take responsibility for that. And yeah, I think Simpson would admit that as well, if he was honest. In the game, I thought we were just lacking goal threats. The same story as the rest of the season, isn't it? We've been competitive for much of that game, same as much of the season. We just don't look like scoring goals at the moment. Gibson, I think we need to bring him back in, obviously. I imagine he's going to start against Shrewsbury. He looked good when he came on, but, you know, we could have done with him for 90 minutes. It's just another game down that we should have been getting points out of, isn't it? Like this and Exeter are two games that we should have been looking at and thinking, right, we really need to pick up points, and we've picked up no points from them. Shrewsbury again, it's a big chance to get our season going, isn't it, at home? I hope we get a decent crowd in, back the lads, and then hopefully get that first 3 points of the season.
Pretty fair assessment there from Johnny. I think his point about saying if Simmo was honest, he would probably say about Anderson. I get why he's defended Anderson on the radio, partly because he's taken the decision to put him in there, so you feel like he has to. But there's no point in going there and crucifying him on his first appearance.
I think as well, he knows that John can handle it.
That 100%, you're absolutely right there. He's done it because he knows that he'll tear into John in public. He'll probably have a bit of go him in private, but I wouldn't even be surprised if he said to him, "Look, I appreciate it's not entirely your fault, but I've got to back this lad and give him a chance," you know. So yeah, and you know, John is not going to be dropped next week. He's not. He's too important to the team, so he will be playing. I'm pretty sure of that. But yeah, overall assessment, Mike, on that one, just a frustrating afternoon, really. Yeah,
and we need to just. I mean, last season, how many frustrating 0-0s did we get? I would love it if this was a frustrating 0-0. You know, and it's sadly not. It's another frustrating defeat.
Yeah. I think, like we said as well, Port Vale, we don't expect them to be up there. I think they'll probably be away from safety. I think they've got enough to keep themselves away from trouble. But I think they've just hit a nice patch of form at the start of the season. And I think because they haven't really got that big a squad as well, they probably will drop off a little bit at some point. General thoughts on your day out at Port Vale? Is that your first time you've been, or have you been before?
No, I've been before, but do you know what? I can't even remember the last time I went. It's such a forgettable away day for me.
Yeah, but obviously we got moved from one stand to the one behind the other goal. I thought the view's slightly better behind that goal, albeit with a big view obstructing post in our way for a lot of the view. But generally, it was all right. And there was a nice little hidden bit where there was the food was down. You have to go behind the main burger shack thing right outside the away end entrance and down a little hill, and there was actually a little hidden bit where there was a lot quieter, wasn't it? It was nice.
I have to say though, I don't think it was very mobility issues friendly.
No, because that was steps all the way down there, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, obviously, people in wheelchairs have their own little stand, but there was like a couple of old fellas with walking sticks and stuff who I could see really didn't fancy them steps. There was no kind of flat ground in that stand either. It was very weird.
It's very much, outside of it at the least, it very much feels like an old 1950s, 60s ground, doesn't it? Because it's very, you go up a lot of steps, it's raised up in the ground, and around it, the topography, whatever, the way that the ground is around the ground, it's hidden, isn't it? You don't really see it until you get quite close. But nice little pub in the town though, the Bull's Head had a couple of nice pints there, but a bit of a pain to get out afterwards though, wasn't it? Really, with the with the old traffic situation. But hey ho.
Yeah, it's the same everywhere, really.
Yeah, it is, to be fair. That's what it is. Right, well, before we wrap up, Mike, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, the transfer window is closing this week on, is it Thursday? Is it Thursday? What day would it be? Friday?
Thursday night, Friday morning.
Yes, Thursday night, Friday morning. We think it's 11 o'clock on Thursday. I haven't actually checked the time. The time doesn't really matter that much. We know it's Thursday anyway. So in terms of what you're expecting in terms of incomings and possibly outgoings as well, what do you think might happen?
Yeah, well, for me, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Cora Whelan leaving some way, shape or form if he's not even really making the bench. Jaden Harris as well, I wouldn't be surprised.
Half-season loan, you think, maybe somewhere?
Maybe, yeah.
Just so we can potentially bring him back if we really need to in January. Do you think Joe Garner, maybe?
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. Because we need, we need a target man. That's what we need. A name today that was doing the rounds was Mumbongo, which doesn't fill people with excitement.
There'll be some writing going on if he is the one, because let's be brutally honest here. He's poor. He's a poor footballer. He came on in the second half of that Tranmere game, didn't he? The one with the big crowd, and he was absolute rubbish for them. Yeah. And I live in Liverpool and I work with quite a few Tranmere fans, and I always remember, like, there's a fellow in our work who constantly was berating him every single every Monday. I'd come in and walk past his desk, go, "Oh, how do you get on this weekend?" Obviously, I'd had an idea how to get on, but just how was the performance, and he'd ramble on for a bit, and he'd always say that Bongo, just absolute dross, terrible footballer. And now I'm going to have to go in on Tuesday and say, "You never guess who we've been linked to," and he's going to go, "No way." I was like, "Yes way." So hopefully it's just agent talk, and the worry is that big old Peter O'Rourke, isn't it, on Twitter? He's usually bang on the money these things. Yeah, he's the one who's saying it, and you're like, "Oh dear." But it's us and Cheltenham, so all the best, Cheltenham, if you want to sign him up, and he'll probably sign for them and go and score 15 goals now or something like that. Won't it? It would be slow that.
But transfers this late in the window, they don't always have to be like terrible last minute. Sometimes, a club could finally get the player that they've been pursuing all window, and then someone's dropped down the pecking order that they're willing to get rid of, who originally wouldn't have been available to us. But yeah, I think we've tried sort of plan A and plan B and plan C. With this target man thing.
I suppose the positive is that we are probably only looking for one, unless we can ship another player out. We're probably only looking for one player coming in, aren't we? Realistically, which is a target man. Maybe a winger. I wouldn't mind a winger as well, actually, if we're going to actually maybe potentially play 4-3-3 a bit more often. Because I don't think Butterworth's a winger. Like I said, I don't even know what Butterworth is. I don't really want Maguire playing and Plange playing out there regularly. We've only really got Gibson who could play as a winger, haven't we? So it's kind of like maybe somebody who can play on the left, even if they're right-footed, and cutting in, like, sadly, as we say it, in Amari Patrick. The irony is that if he'd stayed, he probably would have played a bit more. But I think I don't think his move was all about wanting to play 4-3-3. I think there was an element of wanting to move back down south, having been up north for so long as well. So you've got to accept that too. There's all kinds of rumours of who we're after. There's rumours that we're potentially looking, even to the Scottish leagues or maybe the Irish leagues. And there's one name that me and Dan had a little bit guesswork out. There might be someone who could be interesting. There's a fella called Jonathan Afolabi from Bohemians. Now, the last striker we signed from Bohemians was Paddy Madden, who went on to have a pretty decent career in England. Trevor Malloy, less so. But yeah, he would be an interesting addition, because if you look at his record, he started out at Southampton. He's from Dublin originally. His background is that he started out with some of the clubs over in Ireland, but he went to Southampton for 3 years. Then he went for 3 years at Celtic. Didn't play a first team game for them, but had a couple of loan spells at Dunfermline, or 4 loan spells, sorry. One at Dunfermline Athletic, one at Dundee, one at Ayr United, and one at Ayr Dronians. Didn't score too many goals at those clubs when you look at his record. But he's gone to Bohemians, and he scored 11 in 29 for them since 2022. And if you watch his YouTube clips, he's a big, strong lad. He holds the ball up well, good left foot on him, finishes it well. I think he'd be a great addition. And that's the kinds of players from the Irish League, you can sometimes get them on decent deals, because they usually, the sell-on for, or the release clause is not that big for them. So I do wonder. I'm just looking now. Yeah, 26 goals, 26 appearances in 2023 season for them, 11 goals and 4 assists. And he's been in the starting 11 for, I think, 79% of their games. This is on Transfer Market I'm looking at here. So, yeah, it's one of those ones you're looking to think, could be a really, really interesting addition if we could potentially get him in.
Yeah, I mean, Cheltenham last season signed a lad called Aidan Keener from the Irish League, and he basically single-handedly kept them up. And he only had a 50-piece clause in him. And Cheltenham now are almost the opposite of us, I think, in that they've got Keener up front, who's a good striker, and the rest of the team maybe not so much.
And I should say this lad's also been linked with a move to Gillingham, I think, as well. So they seem quite keen, and I think they're really keen to get another striker in. That's the kind of player we're going to go, because I've heard a lot of people they complain when we signed Terry Ablade, and they were saying we need to get experience, we need to get a proven goal scorer. And it's like, who's this proven goal scorer we're going to sign? Who's going to join us, a club that's got on for the playoffs? He's just established back in League One for the first time in years, and every single club is looking for that striker. And actually, you find most of the time those strikers come out of nowhere. I mean, look at Dominic Telford's record at Newport before he went there. It's pretty shit, really. He wasn't really, that good in it, was it? So, there's other players like that. I mean, Carl Holly wasn't really scoring many goals. Charlie Wyke's record on his previous loan spells was pretty average. Danny Graham, I think, had scored 5 and 40 odd, I think, in his previous loan spells before he came to us. So sometimes you've got to take that. You have to take that gamble. I think if we get him a decent fee, that lad from Bohemians would be a great signing. But there's probably 2 or 3 more that potentially would have been good ones. I suspect we might have been trying to get Jordan Rhodes from Huddersfield. He's obviously gone to Blackpool, so a bit of frustration there. But there's been a few, I think, in the last couple of weeks where you think we've probably gone in. And the truth is, we haven't got the budget. And realistically, it's not going to change when the Americans take over. We're not suddenly going to be spending 5 or 6 grand a week on players. We're not, because that's what we're competing against. Your Boltons and your Barnsleys can offer 5 or 6 grand a week. We can't. 2 to 2.5 is probably the max we're offering. Yeah, realistically.
Exactly.
And you can't have too many players and that much money, because then you have a real disparity in the squad. If you have 5, 6 on that and then a load on £1,000 a week, you're like, what's going on here? So yeah, it's your feeling. We just want to get a target man really in, someone a big lad up there basically, because we've got a lot of small lads up in attack, haven't we? Really, other than Edmondson.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we need. I think maybe is Edmondson a starter or a finisher? I think a lot of his best games for Carlisle, he might have been a finisher. He might have been.
I wonder if he needs to get he needs a goal for him to get his confidence up. And look, we don't talk about it, but I think one of those trophy games might be a useful one to get him starting in that and get him a goal, and that might help him. I think it sounds mad, and we still won't be talking about that game. But there's a game against someone, I think, at the start of next month in the trophy. That might be a really good opportunity actually for a few of those players to actually build their confidence up and show what, get a few goals maybe and things like that to potentially give them the lift they need.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's it, Mike, then, isn't it? I don't think there's much else. We thought this was going to be quite a short one. We've had quite a rant about a few things, haven't we? So that's the way it goes. Yeah, so that's the match review episode done. We're going to be back late in the week to preview the Shrewsbury game. I'm fairly certain we will have Behind Enemy Lines back for that, because we've got a good contact with a Shrewsbury podcast that we spoke to a couple of years ago, and I'm pretty sure they'll want to come on and talk to us. If not, I've got my mate Dale, who's a Shrewsbury fan. We'll try and get him on and have a little chat about how Shrewsbury are doing this season, because it'll be an interesting one, that one. Morgan's return to Brunton Park, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he'll get a lovely reception from the paddock.
It kind of feels a bit sad that he's going to get a bit of stick, because he did give his all when he was playing for us, but it didn't end on great terms in the end, did it? So
no, exactly.
There you go. And to be honest, it probably shows what a good player is, because if he wasn't a good player and he'd gone in those circumstances, you wouldn't be bothered, would you? So
yeah,
there you go. Mike, thanks very much for listening. Thanks once again to listening. Thanks very much for joining me. You have been listening, to be fair, because you've been answering the questions. Thanks once again to our sponsors, the London branch, for their support this season. Really appreciate it. Cheers, Mike.
Cheers.
Thanks everyone for listening, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.